the chairman of the House Oversight, Judiciary, and House Ways and Means Committees, all demanding the Department of Justice, the IRS, and the special counsel, David Weiss, say whether they are investigating Hunter Biden whistleblowers Gary Shapley and Joseph Ziegler. Lawmakers writing to the IRS Commissioner, Daniel Werfel, saying Hunter Biden's lawyers, quote, waged an aggressive intimidation campaign against the whistleblowers, and they repeatedly pressured the DOJ to investigate them for leaking information. They also say that a redacted portion of a DOJ amicus brief in Hunter's tax case suggests that the whistleblowers may be subjects of an ongoing investigation, which the IRS is involved in. Joining me now is Kentucky Congressman, House Oversight Committee Chairman James Comer. Mr. Chairman, good to see you. Thanks very much for being here. Have you heard back from that? Do you know for sure that these whistleblowers are now being investigated by the DOJ?
We have sources that would lead us to believe that. All indications point to that. This administration has clearly retaliated against Mr. Shapley and Mr. Ziegler. We are very disappointed in the way the Democrats have turned a blind eye to this intimidation. To be on the House Oversight Committee, you have to rely on certain things. We have to rely on the inspectors general that are sprinkled throughout the federal government. We also have to rely on whistleblowers. And everything our committee, the House Oversight Committee, should do pertaining to whistleblowers is to protect those whistleblowers and to ensure that the federal government does not retaliate against those whistleblowers. That's clearly what's taking place with the two good IRS whistleblowers who have been the key witnesses in this investigation with respect to the government cover-up of all the Biden crimes. And
this, of course, all originates from your investigation of influence peddling and potential money laundering. I have in my hand the letter that you sent to Joe Biden. It is dated March 28, 2024. And you and your colleagues write this: the committee has accounted for over $24 million that has flowed from foreign sources to you, your family, and their business associates. The committee has identified no legitimate services to merit such lucrative payments. You go on to say you have repeatedly denied playing any role in your family's business activities, but the committee has amassed evidence, including bank records and witness testimony, that wholly contradicts your position on these matters. Have you heard back from President Biden after this letter you sent?
We have not heard back from President Biden, but the White House is spending every second of their free time trying to attack me and trying to attack Jim Jordan and do everything they can to discredit the investigation and to intimidate our investigation moving forward. They're trying to get their friends in the media to say the investigation is wrapping up or the investigation is stalled or whatever. That's simply not true. We've proven the Bidens were influence peddling. We've proven they've taken in tens of millions of dollars, and that $24 million is very conservative. But we've proven they've taken in tens of millions of dollars. We gave both Jim Biden and Hunter Biden an opportunity to explain what they did to receive the money. They couldn't do it, Maria. So it's influence peddling is what it is. The problem Joe Biden has is 3 of the Biden associates have now testified under oath that Joe Biden was the central figure in the influence peddling scheme. No one's disputing that the Biden family was influence peddling. No one's disputing the dollar amounts that we've disclosed that the Bidens took in, because we have their bank records. That's pretty hard evidence. What they're disputing is Joe Biden's role. We've had 3 Biden associates that said he was the closer of the Biden selling the Biden brand. So we need to hear from Joe Biden, because we're at the point now to where we're what I call trying to now provide accountability. We've proven the crimes. Now it's time to hold people accountable for the crimes, and Joe Biden needs to answer some questions in front of the Oversight Committee. Well, we're giving him the opportunity, just like we gave Hunter Biden the opportunity and he didn't show.
You've put a lot of questions in this letter, and obviously he's not answering it. Look, with regard to China, it's very concerning because obviously the CCP is all over America through surveillance, through pushing fentanyl, trying to disrupt this country. And we're wondering why Joe Biden has been so soft on China. Is it because he's compromised? We don't know. But your investigation is coming up with these things. With regard to this letter and China, you write, have you met, spoken to, or otherwise interacted with Jonathan Lee of Bohai Industrial Fund? Have you met, spoken to, or otherwise interacted with Yi Jianming of CEFC? Have you met, spoken to, or otherwise interacted with Henry Zhao of Harvest Fund? Why do you want to know if he's interacted with all these Chinese people?
We know the answer to those questions. We want to hear Joe Biden answer those questions. He's already said publicly numerous times, especially during the presidential election, that he never met with any of these people. Now that all the evidence has been brought to light, we're going to give him an opportunity to see if he can think back and think real hard and be able to answer those questions. Because when he said to the American people countless times that he never met with any of these people who were sending his family millions of dollars, I think most people believed him when he said that. Now the evidence has pointed that he's met with just about every single person that sent the Bidens money. I think every single American should be very concerned. And we know from the Her report that Joe Biden's a forgetful old man. But you can't play that forgetful old man card every time, especially when you're running for re-election for 4 more years to the highest office in our land. Well, his family has committed a lot of crimes. He's been the central figure, according to 3 of these associates, in these crimes. This is a very serious investigation. Joe Biden's in a lot of trouble. He needs to answer these questions. If he can't come in public and answer them, he needs to, at the very least, answer the questions in the letter.
As you know, the White House continues to say that these were loans, and you write about these loans in this letter, and you write, the committee has identified and successfully traced money from foreign transactions, including from China, to your own bank account. Certain checks have been described as loan repayments. However, the person who provided you free bookkeeping during your time as vice president, which was your son's business partner, did not remember any evidence of a loan from your account. So are you telling us that tens of millions of dollars has gone to Joe Biden? He said it's a loan, and you don't have any documentation that it was, in fact, a loan? And was it a loan from China?
Well, what we have directly to Joe Biden's $250,000. And he tries to say that it's a loan repayment. But if you pay me back $250,000, Maria, then I should have a check to you before you paid me back for $250,000. They don't have any evidence of a check. But at the end of the day, the money that Joe Biden stuck in his pocket, the $250,000, that's what we found thus far. The $250,000 to Joe Biden came directly from the Biden influence peddling schemes. $200,000 of it, the check that's on the screen now, that came from the AmeriCorps Health scheme. And then $40,000, the check that's on the screen now, that came from China. That was 10% of a fee in a deal that Tony Bobulinski testified under oath was a deal that Joe Biden was the big guy, that he was going to get 10%. That was a $400,000 fee that Hunter Biden took from a $5 million transaction that he's told the bank was a loan, that he's told others was an investment. We don't know exactly what the $5 million was, but we know Hunter Biden got $5 million. He pulled $400,000 and called it a fee into his Owasco account. Days later, Joe Biden got 10% of that $40,000 that was laundered through a series of transactions. So we've identified Joe Biden receiving payments. They don't have a good explanation for why he received the payment. They say it was a loan repayment, but they can't produce evidence of a loan. None of this makes sense. We're giving Joe Biden an opportunity to answer these simple questions. These aren't complex questions that we're asking. These are simple questions, and he should be able to answer them.
So your letter writes, the committee is open to accommodating your schedule, but proposes April 16th for a hearing to occur. Let's say they completely blow you off and he's not coming to any hearing. What's next? What are you going to do about it?
We're doing everything we can to get him to come to hearing. Every time we get into the corner with the Bidens, you know, they said Hunter Biden wouldn't come for the deposition. We got him. They said the same thing about Jim Biden wouldn't come to the deposition. We got him. The evidence points to the decision that Joe Biden should make as being one that he needs to answer our questions at the very least. We're giving him a platform. We're going to allow him to answer the questions. And Maria, I'm hopeful that he will, because as you know, he's in a lot of trouble right now.
Well, look, Hunter Biden's attorney, Abbe Lowell, is blasting a federal judge for not dismissing these tax charges against Hunter, his son. He's also going after special counsel David Weiss, saying that the investigation was handled in an abnormal way. The judge rejected Lowell's argument that Weiss was influenced to bring the charges from Republicans and the 9 charges should be dismissed. Hunter is accused of failing to pay more than $1 million in taxes, Mr. Chairman. I find that stunning, given the fact that Joe Biden is always telling everybody to pay their fair share, and his son apparently reportedly did not. The
arrogance and entitlement for Mr. Lowell, who's Hunter's attorney, to try to dismiss the case for failure to pay taxes is preposterous. Maria, Hunter didn't pay taxes. He still hasn't paid taxes. What taxes that the government determined he owed, Kevin Morris paid them for him in what we believe is a highly unethical loan that we've determined is somewhere in the neighborhood of $7 million that Hunter Biden owes this big Democrat donor, Hollywood lawyer type thing, Kevin Morris. But what the IRS whistleblowers testified was all of these transactions, the $24 million that you mentioned at the onset of the show, that the Bidens didn't pay any taxes on that money either. What Hunter Biden was charged with not paying taxes was his W-2, primarily from his Burisma income. All this other money that the Bidens took in, no one paid taxes on any of it either. Then you throw in the loans that we found, especially with the president's brother, that we would argue aren't loans. I mean, if someone loans you $1 million 10 years ago and you've never made a payment on it and you're never going to make a payment on it, at some point, that $1 million is taxable because it's an income. It's not a loan if you don't pay it back. So this is just the tip of the iceberg, what the Bidens owe the IRS. And the fact that they're wanting to throw this out because his last name's Biden just shows to the American people the arrogance and entitlement of this family and their legal team. The Bidens owe probably millions more in taxes than what they're in court now for delinquent taxes.
And your letter goes through different countries. You talk about money that he may have received from China, Ukraine, Russia, and beyond in this letter. Again, if you don't get a response from the White House on this, what's your next step? You said to me recently that you are preparing criminal referrals. Is that as far as you can go? What else can you do to get some accountability after all of this information that you say you dug up?
I think the two best options moving forward are obviously criminal referrals and then impeachment. Impeachment's still on the table. There's still an overwhelming majority of Republicans in the House of Representatives that agree with me that Joe Biden has committed impeachable offenses. Now, our confidence level in the Senate is very low. But at the end of the day, the criminal referrals are something that I believe if we don't have a Department of Justice today, hopefully in a year, we will have a Department of Justice that can hold them accountable. But we're going to have the tools in place to hold this family accountable for the criminal wrongdoing that they have committed one way or the other.
Just stunning, truly stunning. Mr. Chairman, we'll be watching your work. Thank you, sir.